Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Royalty USA. I am James Carter, and today I need to start with a quote, just 4 words from an Italian journalist that stopped me completely in my tracks when I read them this morning. He said, and I want you to hear this, he said, they see Kate as a story that follows Diana. 4 words. They see Kate as a story that follows Diana. Now think about what that means. Diana Spencer was perhaps the most beloved woman on earth. She walked into rooms full of strangers and made every single person feel like they were the only one in the world. She sat on hospital beds and held the hands of people the rest of the world had turned away from. She knelt down to speak to children at their level. She cried in public and let the world see her pain. And because of all of that, not despite it, but because of it, the entire world loved her with a depth that has not been matched since she died in 1997, nearly 30 years ago. And Italy this week looked at Princess Catherine walking through a medieval piazza in a northern Italian city and said, yes, that is her. That is the one who carries it forward. I want to tell you everything that happened in Italy over these 2 extraordinary days, because if you have been watching this channel, you already know the big picture. But today I want to go deeper. I want to take you into the moments, the small, quiet, human moments that the cameras almost missed, because that is where the Diana comparison truly lives. And by the end of this video, I think you are going to feel it too. Let us start with the moment she arrived. Wednesday, May the 13th, Princess Catherine stepped into the Piazza Camillo Prampolini in the heart of Reggio Emilia, a medieval square surrounded by 600-year-old stone buildings that have seen kings and emperors and popes pass through, and the crowd that had gathered to see her went absolutely wild, chanting her name, holding handmade banners that read, Ciao Bella, which in Italian means, Hello Beautiful, waving flowers and gifts and reaching out just to be close to her, and Catherine, radiant in a blue suit, her famous waves falling loose around her shoulders, walked straight toward them, no barrier, no hesitation, just toward the people. And here is the moment that made me think of Diana instantly. A little child was in the crowd, maybe 4 years old, maybe 5, pressed up against the barrier with wide eyes and a small bunch of flowers clutched in both hands. And Catherine saw her. She did not stop for the cameras. She did not wave from a distance. She walked directly to that child, crouched all the way down to her level, and talked to her, face to face, eye to eye, like that little girl was the most important person in the entire piazza, and the crowd around them went so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. That is Diana. That is the exact quality that made Diana immortal, not the dresses. Not the titles, not the palaces. The ability to make a frightened child in a crowd feel completely seen and completely safe. Catherine has it, and Italy saw it in real time. But then something happened that nobody was expecting, and this is one of my favorite moments from the entire trip. Catherine was chatting with children in the piazza, trying out her Italian. She has spoken before about studying in Florence during her gap year, and she clearly kept some of it. And she turned to a group of local children and said, in Italian, I speak a bit of Italian. What is your name? I am Catarina. Not Catherine, not Princess Catherine. Catarina, the Italian version of her name. She gave herself an Italian identity on the spot, with a smile, for the sake of a group of children who would remember that moment for the rest of their lives. I am Catarina. Can you imagine? A future Queen of England, standing in an ancient Italian square, introducing herself by a name she has never used publicly before, just to connect with the children in front of her, just to close the distance, just to make them smile. I tell you, when I read that, I had to put my phone down for a moment, because that is not royal protocol. That is not a PR strategy. That is a human being with a gift for connection that very few people on earth possess. And it did not stop there, because day 2 of this trip, today, May the 14th, happening right now as I record this, brought even more extraordinary moments. Catherine visited the Salvador Allende preschool in Reggio Emilia, a school where outdoor learning is at the heart of everything they do. And the teachers there take the children outside every single day, into the gardens, into the mud, into the natural world, because they believe that children learn best when their hands are in the earth and their eyes are looking at living things. And Catherine, in her elegant blaze Milano blazer and her beautiful heels, sat down on the floor of that garden with a group of small children and held out her hands. And into those hands, a child placed a worm, and then a beetle, and then something else that I will be honest, I would not have been quite so calm about. And Catherine laughed and held them and showed not a single moment of hesitation or discomfort. One royal reporter on the ground described it as her David Attenborough moment, and that made me laugh. Because, yes, there is something extraordinary about a princess sitting cross-legged in an Italian school garden, completely at ease with whatever small creature a child decides to place in her hands. And that ease, that willingness to get down in the dirt, that complete absence of pretension, that is exactly what people loved about Diana. Diana visited AIDS patients when the world was still afraid to be in the same room as them. She sat on landmine fields in Angola to make the world pay attention. She did the things that powerful people were not supposed to do. And in her own way, in her own era, Catherine is doing the same. She then visited a place called Remida, Reggio Emilia's creative recycling center, where discarded materials are turned into art by children. She prepared and helped cook lunch with Italian farmers at a working agriturismo, a farm that also serves as a restaurant, getting her hands into the food, laughing with the farmers, being completely and utterly present. And at every single stop, the people of Reggio Emilia reacted the same way, with warmth, with tears, with the kind of genuine emotional response that you simply cannot manufacture. Federico Ruozzi, the president of the city's preschool and infant toddler center, said something that I keep coming back to. He said, "Today even a princess has chosen to come and discover this approach." And that phrase, even a princess, tells you everything. In a city that has been educating children in revolutionary ways for over 70 years, in a city that has welcomed educators and researchers and journalists from every corner of the globe, the arrival of this particular woman still felt like something extraordinary, not because of her crown, because of her character. And then there is the quote from the Italian journalist Paolo Rosato, writing for the local paper Il Resto del Carlino. He told the BBC, and I want to read this carefully because every word matters. He said, "Catherine is very popular here in Italy, more popular than any other royal. She is like Diana Spencer was. For my generation, Diana was so important." I am 44 years old, but my daughter is 9, and she knows Kate and likes her very much. And then he said, "I think their stories are close. I think their stories are close." Now let me talk about why that is, because this is not just about charm or beauty or being good with children. The Diana comparison runs much deeper than that. Diana was a woman who suffered publicly and survived publicly. She was a woman who had a very difficult chapter in her life, the breakdown of her marriage, the eating disorder she spoke about so bravely, the loneliness inside the palace walls. And she turned that suffering into empathy. She turned her own pain into fuel for helping others, and the world recognized that. The world loved her not as a perfect princess, but as a real human being who hurt and healed and kept going. And Catherine, our Catherine, has walked a version of that same road. She was diagnosed with cancer. She disappeared from public life at the height of her popularity. She endured months of treatment, of fear, of uncertainty, while trying to protect her 3 children from the worst of it. And she came back, not broken, not diminished, but more focused, more purposeful, more alive than she has ever seemed before. Royal aides traveling with her this week have said, and I find this incredibly moving, that they have not seen her this energized in years, that she is taking her work up a gear, that the woman who stepped off that plane in Reggio Emilia is a different Catherine than the one who stepped back from public duties in 2024. Emily Nash, the royal editor at Hello magazine, was on the ground in Reggio Emilia reporting on every moment, and she wrote something that I think is the most important sentence written about this trip anywhere. She wrote, "Kate's presence on an international stage carries an emotional power that few public figures in the world can rival, not few royals, few public figures in the entire world." That is the assessment of a journalist who has covered this family for years, who was standing right there in that piazza, watching it happen in real time. And she also wrote that many of the educators and teachers at the schools Catherine visited were moved to tears when she acknowledged their work. These are people who have devoted their entire lives to the care and education of very small children, work that is often invisible, underpaid, and overlooked. And here was one of the most famous women on earth flying to their city, sitting in their classrooms, holding their children, and telling them that what they do matters, that the world is watching, that they are seen. That is Diana. That is the gift. The ability to make people feel that their lives and their work and their struggles are worthy of a princess's attention. And before I close today, I want to mention one more thing, because it connects everything. When Catherine launched her new Foundations for Life program just last week at the University of East London, she wore a delicate gold necklace, small pendants, G for George, C for Charlotte, L for Louis, her children's initials worn on her chest, on the day she launched a program to help other people's children have better lives. A woman who fought for her own life, now fighting for the lives of children she will never meet, wearing her own children's names on her heart as a reminder of why it all matters. Diana would have understood that completely, because Diana always said that her greatest achievement, her most important work, was not any charity or campaign or royal visit. It was her sons. And now one of those sons has a wife who carries that same understanding, that the most powerful thing a person can do in this world is to love children. All children, not just the ones in the palace, all of them. Italy saw that this week. The crowds chanting in the piazza saw it. The teachers who cried saw it. The little girl with the flowers saw it. The journalist who said their stories are close, he saw it. And I hope you see it too. I am James Carter. This has been Royalty USA. If this story moved you, and I genuinely hope it did, please give this video a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and subscribe to this channel. We are a small community built on real stories told with real heart, and we are growing every single day because of viewers exactly like you. Tell me in the comments, do you think Kate is the new Diana, or is she becoming something completely her own? I want to know what you think. I read every single one. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.